The village of Al-Khaliyat, the emptiness, always hushed its lights early, except for the sprawling, skeletal outline on its perimeter, the abandoned mansion. Known locally only as the Whispering House, its broken windows stared like blind, judging eyes at the quiet town. The legends were uniform: madness, murder, and shadows that moved with purpose. For Ahmed, an ambitious city developer, the house was merely a bargain, an unbelievably low auction price that eclipsed any childish ghost story. He dismissed the locals' pallid, fearful glances as quaint provincial superstition. Ahmed saw only profit in the rot: a massive plot, a historical structure ripe for flipping, and a solid return on investment. Profit conquers myth, he convinced himself, pushing down the instinctive shiver that crawled beneath his collar every time the house appeared in his peripheral vision. The papers were signed, the money transferred. He was the owner, willingly walking into a history he refused to believe in. The keys were heavy and unnaturally cold in Ahmed's palm. The realtor, a man whose face seemed permanently etched with dread, hesitated before handing them over. "Mister, remember what I told you. Never open the cellar. There is something that cannot be disturbed." Ahmed laughed it off, a theatrical, brittle sound, and pushed open the massive oak front door. The air inside was dense, heavy, and absolutely silent. Every step Ahmed took was amplified, echoing with an unnerving resonance, as if the house itself was monitoring his entry. The aroma was a suffocating mix of damp earth, centuries of decay, and something else, metallic, cloying, like old, dried blood. In the living room, a dark, star-shaped stain marked the floorboards. It looked disturbingly fresh despite the thick layer of gray dust covering everything else. He knew then that the silence was not absence, it was anticipation. Ahmed began his tour, flashlight cutting weak cones through the gloom. The upstairs rooms were perceptibly colder. In one corner of a dilapidated nursery, he found a solitary object, an antique rag doll. Its button eyes were chipped and fixed forward, unsettlingly focused on him. Disgusted, Ahmed flipped the doll face down, and that's when the silence finally broke. A whisper, faint but piercing, scraped against his eardrums. Ahmed. It was his name, delivered not by air, but by the very essence of the stillness. He froze, his blood turning to ice water. He spun around, the flashlight beam dancing wildly. Nothing, just the shadows retreating. Trying to rationalize, he pointed the light at an old, dusty mirror. As he watched, a perfect patch of condensation formed on the glass, briefly coalescing into the shape of a child's handprint, before vanishing. It was the house's first clear declaration. Ahmed hired a renovation crew, demanding they ignore the local gossip. For 2 days, the sound of hammers and saws provided a comforting, human rhythm. By the third afternoon, the mood had curdled. "Sir, we can't stay," the foreman stammered, his eyes wide. "The noises. Footsteps upstairs when we're alone. Doors slamming shut. The electricity went out last night even though the house is newly wired." That evening, as the workers gathered their gear, the lights died completely. Panic erupted. They abandoned their tools and sprinted into the night. The next day, no one answered his calls. Ahmed understood. The house had rejected the intrusion. The power remained off, and the silence returned, heavier and more possessive than before.